Good morning, everyone. Today's reading is from Champumogyong, Book 5, Section 2, Passage 13. Evil stands face to face against us, and Satan opposes us as we search for the conscientious standard. Therefore, we need to form a relationship with heaven at the place where our hearts and heaven's heart bond, where human affection and heaven's affection unite. The place where our thinking and heaven's thinking are indistinguishable, where our lives and heaven's life become one, and where our love and heaven's love interweave. If the hearts, lives, ideas, and loves of heaven and human beings are united, this relationship can never be cut. Even foreign people have a hard time cutting off relationships from each other. They cry their eyes out, trying to hold on to their relationships. But who can cut off a relationship that became one through heaven's affection? Even all the powers of evil in the world cannot cut off the flow of heart that is connected to God, the origin of our mind and soul. Until humankind finds such a heavenly standard, history will be tormented and humanity will mourn. Is there a brave person who can prevent this from happening in this world? I eagerly look forward to finding such a brave person among young men and women, a person to take on this responsibility, a person who will pioneer this mission and walk the path of this mission wholeheartedly. Champumogyong, Book 8, North-South Unification and World Peace. Chapter 2, Section 2. The National Level Unification Church and the environment for true parents to stand at the national level will soon be realized. What would a country at this national level be like? It will begin as the most miserable of all nations. It will begin as a country in turmoil because of the struggle between communism and democracy. It will be a nation such as El Salvador, Honduras, or Guatemala, which are in Latin America. Aju.
This was the third time that we were going for this particular project. And, they say 3 is a charm. It was a great project. When we began this project a year and a half ago, I don't know how to make a park. I'm not sure that I still know how to make a park, but anyway, with the help of friends, you could do anything. What we did know at that time is that we wanted to create a park for God that was created by youth of all of the Americas, and we would call it the One America Peace Park. People ask me a lot of times, what are you doing there? And I could come up with many different reasons, and each time I come back home, I could come up with a new reason. And the reason this time is, am I going to see the picture? The reason this time is there. The title of my sermon today is The Potential of a Naughty Boy. That's my naughty boy. I'll talk about him a little bit more in the beginning. In the end. At the beginning of the summer, Mario Salinas and I wrote an article for True Peace magazine, just sharing our testimonies about, what we've learned from what we're doing together. And that article was translated by a brother named Laurent Ladouce. He's a French brother, and he works for True Peace magazine. He's the French translator. And he wrote to the two of us, and he said, I really appreciated that article because it made me cry, because I feel like what you're doing is true restoration. And he said that he thought that it was a good idea if we would connect to this particular network of cities called the International Cities of Peace. So we looked into that, and we're working now to make Tela, the city that we're working in, an international city of peace. And on the foundation of his interest in the project that we were doing, By the way, he's working with a number of other cities in Africa and in Southeast Asia. But anyway, he has interest in this particular city. And we created a trinity, Laurent, Mario, and myself. And in fact, we met together shortly after we connected. We met together online, a virtual meeting, a cup of coffee, and a discussion. And Laurent has been praying for us, and even at the project itself, one night we had him come online, and he was introduced to every person in the project. So it really made it quite personal for us. We really feel like he's a part of what we're doing. And he continues to communicate about the International Cities of Peace. So before the project began, Laurent wrote a letter for us to the mayor of Tella, inviting him to be a city of peace. And I have just a little, I have a translation of the letter. Oh no, no, this is not the translation of the letter, but this is a little paragraph from what he wrote. It's up on the line also. How can Tella become an international city of peace? Each city of peace is a unique answer to a unique question. Tella has to see itself as a city which encapsulates the essence of the Honduran question. And the Honduran question is a part of the Central American question. Tella has to become a smart city in promoting good practices for a culture of peace. And it has to bring positive and creative answers by mobilizing the population. It has to do so not for self-promotion, but in order to give hope and start a new culture, a new paradigm for Honduras. In 2012, Honduras had the highest murder rate in the history. It also had the highest murder rate in a non-war country. The violence is associated with drug trafficking, since Honduras is often a transit point, home to a number of urban gangs, mainly the MS-13 and the 18th Street gangs. It is useless to blame anyone or anything for this. The authorities of Tella and the population have to determine that they will take responsibility to show another culture, another way of life is possible in Honduras. We are confident that the city of Tella is a good place to start building a new image in Honduras. So as usual, we went about our project afterwards, and before I left, after our fun and our inspiration and our concluding with a feeling of hope, I was asked to stop at the mayor's office. And the mayor gave me a very short letter. And in that letter, I have the translation of the letter is here. I'll read it to you. Dear Mrs. Pobans, receive my greetings and my best wishes of success in your dedicated daily works. I am Dario Magoya Quezada. I guess that's almost right. Elected mayor of the city of Tella. It is a great honor to be suggested to become a part of the network of the cities of peace. In such a way, I appoint you, Mrs. Pobans, to be the carrier of our request, as it is a great pleasure to be a part of these cities of peace and to promote peace in our city and in our country as well, starting with our little park where you have been working for its betterment, designated as the One America Peace Park. Thank you for your attention to this note, cordially, and he signed it and sealed it, the mayor of Tella. So, we read a quote this morning from the Chansangyang, and his father's words said, the national level country would begin as a country in turmoil because of the struggle between communism and democracy. It would be a nation such as El Salvador, Honduras, or Guatemala, which are in Latin America. And then we have a suggestion from our French brother that this city in Honduras, Tella, has to become a smart city in promoting good practices for a culture of peace. And it has to bring positive and creative answers by mobilizing its population. It has to do so not for self-promotion, but in order to give hope and to start a new culture, a new paradigm in Honduras. And then finally, there's the confirmation from the city's mayor saying, "I appoint you to be the carrier of our request to become a city of peace and to promote peace in our city, Tela, and in our country, Honduras, starting with our little park where you have been working on the betterment designated as the One America Peace Park." Now, when I add up these 3 points, Father's words, the suggestion of the cities of peace from our brother, and the confirmation from the mayor, I feel like this is in fact a formula for great success. But what does that have to do with the potential of a naughty boy? Let me, before I share kind of the internal part of my, my sermon, I'd like to just show you the photographs from this last project real quickly. When we first went to, there's one before this. There's one photo before this. This is what the park looked like when we arrived a year and a half ago. And then the next picture is what it looked like after the last time we were there, which was quite an improvement. And we've continued to work on it. Go ahead. This is our morning meeting. This is basically how the project goes. There's a morning meeting, and then there's still another kind of morning meeting. We met at the beginning of the project with the mayor and his son. His son is an architect, and the mayor asked that that son work with us. It was a small group of people. Here we are meeting with the architect and sharing some ideas and plans and designs. This time around, all of the leadership was youth leadership. So we have our project director, the art director, and the work coordinator. Here we're working on a mosaic. Usually every project we do 1 or 2 mosaic benches. Go ahead. This is Marissa Bell learning a new skill on how to cut tiles. That's not it. One more, back. One more. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. A couple of the benches had to be moved for the new installment that we were doing. So we started digging by ourselves, by hand. And then the architect got involved, and he got the big guns out. So he helped us a great deal in moving the municipality. The municipality really worked with us 100% this time. Always the kids are there. You'll see lots of kids in every project. Here was our finished mosaic bench this time. Go ahead. We were working with making a fence, which you'll see next. This is a fence, kind of going around the installment we made. We painted it. Next. That's it, finished. We also designed a pergola, or an arbor to go over the top of the gazebo, which was really lovely. Here we are putting it up. Go ahead. And this is pretty much when it was about done. There were letters designed. I asked for some kind of centerpiece where people would like to take photographs. You'll see it finished later on. There's a wall behind it that we also built. Here's how the letters were. We painted the frames that the municipality built for us according to the specs we gave them. And in the end, this is what it looked like. If you come from one road, you see the P-A-Z, pause, peace. And if you come from another road, you just see the A, the shared A, M-O-R, amor, which is love. After the project, or that part of the project, we had a peace road. And again, this architect really came in, really was such a support to us. He mobilized 5 schools so that we had about 400 young people march in the Peace Road. This is our group. You could just go through these. We had a couple of marching bands that came. And, the kids had their flags, and they were all supporting Peace Road, walking through the cities. We walked from the City Hall until everybody recognizes the naughty boy. We walked from the City Hall to the Peace Park. Here we are. You could see how far back all the kids went, and then they went around the corner. There was about 400 altogether. Here's the band coming. They're coming around to the park where we had a prayer there, and then the kids did performances, and we had speakers. This Mario, the national leader of Honduras, speaking at the rally. The little Garifuna children who danced, did their dance. There were this is the youth queen and the child queen of the city. Kids came out to perform their dances. You see them again. You see them again. And all the kids who were watching and stuff. This is our group who also made their offering of a dance. We had Kayo Bien and also Chiaki Hugawara who went. We had another young person from New Jersey who is non-unification, and 2 adults. To the signing of our peace banner, there was a video display of the international Peace Road connection, so that people could connect from our project to kind of the bigger vision of the Peace Road. And this was signed by dignitaries and other people who came to the program. Following that, we had the reflection time. I always have people journaling. Every night they journal about what they do. And then the last day we went to a Garifuna community. Garifuna community is kind of interesting. It's an African community. They still speak their African language. They still live in their huts. They still have their music. They keep their culture. They were a group of African people who were taken to St. Vincent Island. But this particular group refused to be slaves. And for that reason, there was a concern by St. Vincent government to mix them together with the rest of the slaves because they were a very poor example. So they got rid of them and they put them on an island outside of Honduras, and then they eventually settled on the coast where we work in Honduras. And anyway, so we visited their community. A lot of the participants got their hair braided. We saw the coconut bread being made. We saw their dancing. We learned how to dance with them. We had their food, and anyway, it was just a great experience. These are the kids just lying down, as you could see. We're reflecting. Go ahead. Don't get caught on that photo. This was Bye-Bye to Marissa group hug, and our graduation next. That's it. And do I have one more photo? Or that's it? That's it. So that's basically what the project was externally. So let me speak a little bit about the whole experience. And in particular, our education project, portion of the project, because the project was just 4 days after Mother's talk in Brazil for the African Summit, we used the same theme as they did for their summit. So the theme of our program this time was interdependence, co-prosperity, and human value. And this is the way that we broke it down. I switched it around a little bit. We spoke first about human value as a unique expression of God, asking, who am I? Next, we looked at ourselves as unique individuals working together, contributing to a group. And then, who am I relative to the other person? Or what is my value relative to other people? And finally, co-prosperity and mutual prosperity, or how do we all benefit from our interactions? So during the first few days of the project, we tried to concentrate on the question of who am I? What is my unique value and as an individual expression of God? Actually, you might remember that before I left for the project, I was supposed to give a Sunday sermon. And I had already begun thinking about this whole question of human value. And that topic was really in my mind then when I went to Honduras. So the reason I started actually thinking about human value was because recently Brian Sabrin gave me a book. He recommended a book. It was called Love and Respect. It's an interesting book, one of those books that's for helping you improve your marriage. I don't necessarily have a problem with my marriage, but he thought that I'd be interested anyway, and it did, in fact, intrigue me a little bit. So the author's premise was that love and respect is a man-woman thing. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that love and respect is a relational thing. It's just generally a relational thing. So I really started to think about what is like the interplay of love and respect in relationships in general. In religion, we spend a lot of time thinking about unconditional love, or loving as God loves. And to love unconditionally, I would venture to say, is to bond with heaven. As we read in the Hundake, it says, we need to form a relationship with heaven at the place where our hearts and heaven's heart bonds, where human affection and the affection of heaven unite, the place where our thinking and heaven's thinking is indistinguishable, where our life and heaven's life become one, and where our love and heaven's love is interwoven. That is to say that we have to learn to see and feel and love as God loves. But what about respect? Do we respect one another as God respects us? Shouldn't we also become or strive to respect one another with God's respect? Shouldn't we strive to have unconditional respect for one another? Well, maybe you might be saying, hey, wait a minute, no, you have to earn respect. But in fact, that's not the way that God respects us. Actually, God respects us. God honors us as human beings, each person individually, respecting and valuing us as independent expressions of the masculine aspect or the feminine aspect of God. In the very fact that God gives us, gives all of humanity free will, we see that God respects us as individuals to be the unique being that we were created to be. If then we're meant to think, live, and love as God does, doesn't that mean that we're meant to also strive to respect other people and see them as God sees them? That doesn't mean that we have to agree with one another. It doesn't mean that we have to like the same things or even understand one another. It just means that we must see the God in everyone and relate to them as an expression of God. That is, we need to offer unconditional respect to one another. You know, my husband studied philosophy, psychology, theology. He's an academic, and actually he's my teacher. And whenever I have difficulty with a concept or I'm trying to go through a concept, I ask him about that concept. And I asked him this time, Carrie, what do you think is the correlation between love and respect in a relationship? Or how would you compare the two? And then he thought for a little while, and then he said to me, if you could put up that diagram, he said, you know, respect is a feeling of appreciation for the individual's value in a relationship. In a relationship, love is the force that unites the two individuals. So in a sense, respect is actually a prerequisite to love. And in the end, we can conclude that to be godlike, we have to strive not only for unconditional love, but also for unconditional respect. If we don't respect another person, what we end up doing, the next point that we looked at in our education was to look at ourselves as unique individuals working together, contributing as a group, asking, who am I relative to the other, and what is my value to others? So it was interesting. One morning I woke up. This happens to me a lot of times. I wake up with words or thoughts in my mind. And this particular morning I woke up, and it seemed as if God was speaking to me and said, if you treat others with God's love, with God's kindness, and God's respect, they will begin behaving like godly people. So, taking that concept of respect a little further, if you don't respect another person in relationship, you're placing yourself at a different level, or you're putting yourself above them. So then we would be judging the person, or we would be looking down at that person. And if we do that, we have no hope of uniting. We have no hope of ever truly loving one another. We need to really look at each other as a person of God so that we can learn to unite and love one another. Although I don't agree completely with this guy with husbands and wives, I might say, you might think about it with husbands and wives. Do we really respect one another? Of course, we love one another, but do we really respect one another? If you don't respect the other person, you're placing yourself above. But what happens is when we do respect one another, respect allows for free will to work its magic. Respect does not force love. Respect liberates love. Respect creates an environment for dialogue and understanding. Respect opens the door to a new relationship. Respect means recognizing the dignity of a person as an expression of God, as a son or a daughter of God. Though this, as I said, this particular book was looking at marital relationships, I think that the concept of love and respect is key to all relationships. Friend to friend, child to parent, parent to child, boss to subordinate, people to people, you and in fact the person that you're sitting next to right now. If you do not respect the God in the next person, we have cut off our ability to unite, and we have cut off our chance to experience deep and genuine love. Recently, Mrs. Hak Ja Han Moon, our true mother, compared the unification movement with Iguazu Falls. And she was saying how hundreds of rivulets combined to form this great waterfall, this great power, this great stream. She said, we must all, that means each unique individual, must be moving in the same direction. No matter how unique or different we might be, we can go with our differences and really go forward in the same direction of godliness. So I believe that when we're moving, that we are actually now moving out of the realm of individualism, but we're moving into a time when we could truly be interdependent, and the result of that will in fact be co-prosperity. We can no longer cling to our individuality, but truly develop our mutuality. And I'm going to repeat that because if you don't take anything else with you today, take this. We must no longer cling to our individuality, but truly develop our mutuality, how we relate to one another regardless of our differences, how we can benefit one another. Okay, so again, I'm going to ask, what does that have to do with the naughty boy? Let me tell you about the naughty boy. I need a picture of him, though. There he is. Let me tell you about this naughty boy. This little boy, Jared, was with us every single day. He comes from a very difficult family, and he lives with relatives. You could say that he has a house, but he doesn't have a home. Jared is a very naughty boy. If he's allowed to do work, he's fine. If he does the mosaic work, he's wonderful. If he paints, he's wonderful. But if you say to him, no, you can't do that. For example, if he wants to paint with enamel paint, that's going to ruin his clothes. Or if you tell him, no, you're only 9 years old, you can't use the power tools, he gets really, really upset and he starts acting out and doing all kinds of foolish things, and he gets very angry. And in fact, it's easy to want to get angry and just yell at this child because he's just so, off the cuff. He's He's just off. But it's at that time I discovered that we really need to be able to look at him and look at the God in him and treat him with that kind of love, that kind of kindness, and that kind of respect. Respect frees the spirit of others, even a naughty boy, to develop their own path towards goodness. Respect doesn't force action, it motivates action. Respect creates an environment for one to feel free and unencumbered to be one's true self. Think about how exciting the world would be if we, through our love and our respect, our unconditional love and our unconditional respect, could liberate the 7.6 billion people in the world to unite with the heart of heaven and be free to be their true selves. That would be 7.6 billion different expressions of goodness. That would be 7.6 billion different expressions of God. The natural result of living mutually with love and respect for one another is co-prosperity. If you look at that little boy, he's a very naughty boy, but I think that this naughty boy will become a great man one day because he loves working together with us, with other people. He enjoys serving, and he hates not to be a part of something and being left out. That little boy's potential needs to be liberated by who? By me, by my love and by my respect, and all of the participants, that when we go down and we can love and respect those young people in particular, we can liberate them to become the true men and women that they're meant to become. That's actually the conclusion of my words, but I do want to conclude with one last item, because I really think that a picture is worth 1,000 words. You know, in the past 2 years, our organizing group has been talking about creating a sculpture for the park. We've struggled with the concept of the concept of it, and also the cost of it, how to create the sculpture, how to transport the sculpture. And then finally, our new colleague, the architect, found this young artist in Honduras who agreed to make the sculpture that we've conceived. And I want to conclude today by showing you this sculpture, which he created in miniature. It has to be still created in a larger scale, that we hope that we'll be creating next year. In the sculpture, you'll see 3 figures. They represent North, South, Central America, and the Caribbean. Those are the 4 Americas that we talk about. The figures are carving one another out of stone. They are liberating one another out of stone. The title of this sculpture will be Interdependence and Co-Prosperity, Only One America. May God bless you, and may God bless the Americas. Thank you very much.